Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spannerman again here with another video. Hope you enjoyed the video today. Please subscribe to the channel. Any comments, thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spannerman again here with another video. Today we're going to do a product review of this Hurricane 240 volt professional chainsaw sharpener, which I purchased from Johno Johno in Ballarat here in Victoria. It is a premium type chainsaw grinder. It was $145. If you translate that into US, that's probably about $95 in US. I don't think you're going to find a better grinder on the market than this for what you pay for. So for value for money, this grinder would have to be probably the best you could get. Now this comes in various other different brands because it's made in China and it's made by some Chinese company, and you can look at the Timber Tough or the Swartz tools. They're all rebadged, so they're all made in the same company and they rebadge them all. So this is rebadged for Johno Johno in Ballarat, and we'll go over all the good and bad points. At least I can say there's not many bad points on this grinder. Very, very good grinder, made really well. It comes with two wheels. So the two wheels are 145 millimeters in diameter, but the thickness of the wheels for different chains. So your thin wheel is 3.2 millimeters, and that is for your low profile chains or 1/4 inch. And if you go up to your 3/8 chains or your 404, you have a 4.8 millimeter thickness wheel for that. It also comes with a little kit that has two Allen key wrenches in the bag. It has a little plastic card so that you can measure the radius of your grinding wheel, as well as a little silicon carbide block there for dressing the wheel, because you need to keep that nice radius on the wheel, and you can use that little plastic card in there to make sure that you push it in there and you set it against the wheel to look for any gaps and dress it accordingly. So we've just mentioned about the wheel sizes. We'll talk about the specifications of the motor. It's a 230 watt motor. It spins at 3000 RPM, so there's enough grunt in there to do all your chains without any problems. You don't really want it much powerful than 230 watt. That's powerful enough, because all those little El Cheapo small grinders are only about 85 watt. So this is substantially much more powerful than that. So to me, you never need more than what this has got. This is enough. Okay, so we'll talk about the functions of this grinder. The functions of this grinder, we'll talk about the head. Now this head, as you'll see, is on an angle at the moment. I've set it to 60 degrees. That is fairly generic amongst all chainsaw grinders. Even the ones that are non-adjustable are set at 60 degrees. 60 degrees is your industry standard there. If you go to 55, that's not a bad setting either, but you probably don't want to stray too much away from the 60. So, to me, I recommend stick with 60. That is the industry standard. Now, if you actually look at the name, the correct technical name when we move the head is called top plate cutting angle. But, I'll refer to this as just the head angle. But the top plate cutting angle, for those that may not know, if we look at a tooth and we bring the grinder in to grind the tooth, the actual wheel will come in down at this angle, the same angle as what you see there with the wheel, and that is a 60-degree angle. Now that angle will sit against the top plate, but the top plate has an angle, and that angle is 30 degrees. That angle is to be set by this setting on the front here. So we've got 0 degrees here, and we have 35 degrees to the right and 35 degrees to the left. Most chains out there are going to be 30 degrees. So you're going to have 60 degrees on the head, or the top plate cutting angle, and 30 degrees on the actual top plate angle itself. So 60, 30. There is another adjustment, and that other adjustment is that this vise is tiltable, meaning that it can go backwards and forwards, 10 degrees. Reason for that, some manufacturers recommend that you put a 10 degrees downward tilt on your full chisel chains. So it's only used for full chisel chains. Now, a lot of people get confused as to which way to tilt it for the left and the right. So I'll just clear that up. When we view a chain, we view it from the back, not from this side. We always view from the back angle. So the left-hand tooth will be closest to the back of the grinder. The right-hand tooth will be closest to the operator. There's a little jingle going around, and you can remember it if you're not too sure. You say, oh, I've forgotten which way to tilt the vise. If you're going to do the right-hand tooth, which is closest to you, you push this knob away. So the phrase is right away. But when you do push that away, you'll notice that the vise tilts towards you. And if you do a left-hand tooth, the vise tilts away from you, but the knob comes towards you. Don't get confused with that. Because some people get confused because some of the Oregon type ones, the more expensive ones, have a vise. A lot of the grinders now don't have this tiltable mechanism. They have a slide-in vise from 0 to 15 degrees. So a left hand or a right hand tooth, you'll push this away from you. The vise will tilt towards you. On a slide-in vise, you will bring the vise towards you for a right-hand tooth, and for a left-hand tooth, you'll push it away. So that just clears that up, because people do get confused between which way to tilt the vise for left and right. So, okay, we've spoken about this angle here, the top plate cutting angle, or, you know, the motor tilts, or the grinding wheel. The motor tilts, but the grinding wheel comes down at that angle. You can read that on the back plate there, and if you have a look, it'll say 60 degrees. This is just the indication, because when you set that, there's a knob at the back and you adjust that knob. So generally you adjust it at the back. We'll just sort of go around the back and we'll show you that. The reason that you've got this on the front is that, just say it's you haven't used it in, I don't know, a couple of months, and you can just look here and go, oh yeah, it's on 60 degrees. So I guess that's the reason why you've got that on the front. So to adjust that, it's just a matter of, if we have a look behind here, I'll just sort of get the right angle here. You can see at the back there's a graduated scale that goes from 90 degrees to 50 degrees there. There's the adjusting knob there. So it's just a matter of loosening that knob. Little tiny marker here. And as you can see, it's set on 60 degrees. I think you can see that pretty good. So that little triangle is your marker, and you adjust that there. So the front is really just a reminder of where it's set at. So you don't usually use the front to set it up. You usually put your head round the back. So that is for the top plate cutting angle. And as I said here, you've got this. You'll notice you can hear those little clicks. They put little springs in there with little ball bearings, and it's set, those little indentations and those clicks that you can hear, 0 degrees, 15 degrees and 30. 30 degrees being the most common. If you go more aggressive to 35, that's okay in really soft timber. But if you go to 35 degrees, you'll find out that it's more aggressive and the chain will dull quicker. Some people select 25 degrees, so depends on the manufacturer and depends on the chain. A lot of the steel chains are 30 degrees. You won't find a recommendation for 25, although you can. But generally, I would just go by the manufacturer's recommendation. 25 degrees means it won't cut as aggressive, but it won't dull as much. 25 degrees, in some countries, they use them where there's what they refer to as frozen timber. Timber's that hard, it'll blunt more quicker at 30 degrees, so they grind them at 25 degrees. So stick with what the manufacturer recommend. As I said, you can do it 25 degrees if you want, but if you're grinding between 25 and 30 degrees, you're going to be starting taking excess metal off the chain if you're swapping backwards and forwards. So bear that in mind, because when you move 5 degrees, you'll have to take more metal off of the tooth until that profile comes exactly nice and level between the front and the back, because the grinding wheel will be in a slightly different position and will have to grind one side before it becomes parallel with the tooth, because it'll be offset by 5 degrees. So bear that in mind, that every time that you play around with angles, you're going to grind more off your tooth, probably about 1 millimetre. So yeah, bear that in mind. So we've gone over that. The only other little adjustment that you've got on here, there's another one that we'll go over. You can see this little grub screw here. And what that's for, it'll adjust this guide rail here. So if this cam gets a little bit out of adjustment, or you feel that it needs adjusting, or you can adjust this so that this cam will be in a slightly different position. So that's another adjustment that you can do. You'll also notice that on the back here, you've got this adjustment. This limits the depth that the grinding wheel will come down on the tooth, so you'll set that and use the lock nut. So that's in a good handy position. I like that position. The other adjustment that you've got, and we'll just sort of look at this. This is the backstop. It sits behind the tooth. It does have this little wheel here, but I made this little plate up here because this little wheel here is on its own is very free and loose. As you can see, it's very, very loose. And under certain circumstances, if you get a bit of vibration in the wheel, this can come loose. And if this comes loose, this can move into a different position. The whole idea of adjusting this backstop, which will move this backstop from left to right, is when your chain wears down to almost the end of life, the grinding wheel will grind off the end of this off if it's not adjusted. So you need to make sure that if you're doing the left side tooth, you need to adjust this and move this away from the grinding wheel. So when setting the grinding wheel up with the tooth, make sure that this is away from the grinding wheel. And that's the whole idea of this. So what I did to avoid this coming loose was I had a bit of 3mm stainless steel and I just drilled and tapped this. But if it is giving you problems, best way, you could put a bit of blue tab in here, blue tap or something in there, just to try and stiffen it up a little bit. Yeah, so that's the only problem that I really found with it, because on the genuine Oregon ones, they don't have these black knobs. They just have a little small red knob, and it's a tapered plastic thread. So when you screw it on, there's a bit of resistance. It's not loose and it won't vibrate off. Maybe after a couple of years or something like that, it may loosen up. So that's about the only thing that I really dislike is the side play on that. And that's why I made that little extra locking nut. It's okay on the backstop adjustment itself. It has a locking nut, but this could have been made slightly longer with another locking nut mechanism on there, which would have been great. But they've just copied this because really this is a clone of an Oregon 511. Everyone copies off everyone because that patent has elapsed. So there's a Chinese company out there making millions of dollars because they're just making all these clones of the Oregon 511. And that's exactly what this is. This is the second one of this grinder that I've got, because I've got another one over here, and this one here is used for my 3.2mm chains, and this one is used for my 4.7mm chains. So overall, the performance of this is very good. I've got no complaints, except, as I mentioned, I changed the light and I just fixed up this little locking mechanism. The rest of it works fine, not a complaint whatsoever. It will give you many, many years of good service, I'm sure. As I said, I've got two of them. I also have the Tecumec. That's slightly higher quality than this one here. And I've also got the Steel USG, which is even higher quality again. But it is my personal opinion that the price that you pay for this, $145 in Australia, which equates to $95 US, value for money, you will never get a better grinder than this. And that's what I'm talking about, value for money. You cannot find a cheaper grinder that works better than this for that amount of money. It is the best grinder on the market, value for money. Look, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now.